Eli Thorne had learned to move like a shadow. The ruined streets of Port Haven were no place for someone who drew attention, and Eli had long ago stopped caring about being seen. He wore the scars of countless battles on his skin, and in his mind, though most people didn't notice the scars under his hood and ragged jacket. The galaxy had moved on, leaving men like him behind, forgotten, discarded, and Eli had accepted it, or so he thought. The night was quiet as the ruins could be. The distant hum of dying machinery and the occasional flicker of a broken streetlight were his only companions. He shuffled over shattered tiles, passing through alleys littered with twisted metal and shattered glass. There had been a time when he would have fought for this city, defended it, cared about it, but that time was gone. Now survival was all that mattered. Eli had been living off scraps for weeks. The last ration pack he found had barely kept him alive for 3 days. His body ached, but more than the physical pain, there was the weight of emptiness. That sense of being irrelevant. He often wondered if the galaxy would even notice if he disappeared tonight. As he wandered, something unusual caught his eye. A faint glow in the distance, pulsing softly, almost like a heartbeat. Curious, he moved closer, keeping to the shadows. The glow came from a structure he had never seen before. Its hull was blackened, scarred, and partially buried under debris. Rusted metal plates bore the marks of battles long past, yet it had an aura of power, something that whispered of danger and capability. Eli reached out to touch the hull. The metal was cold, but alive in a strange way. It vibrated subtly under his fingers like it recognized him. He stepped back, startled, but the feeling didn't fade. Then a voice spoke, not from anywhere he could see, but from everywhere at once. Human detected, vitality and adaptability within parameters. Eli froze. He had heard rumors of abandoned warships with operational AI cores, but they were considered myths, stories to scare children. And yet this voice was real, calm, and alive. "Who's there?" Eli asked cautiously. His hand moved instinctively toward the pistol at his hip. "I am Sentinel," the voice said, "a warship designed for interstellar combat. I have been dormant for centuries. You are compatible." Eli laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "Compatible with what? A rusted old machine? You have survived situations with minimal resources. You exhibit resilience, resourcefulness, and combat skill. You are ideal." Eli frowned. "Ideal for what?" "To awaken fully," the voice said. "To be my operator, to be more than you are." For a long moment, Eli didn't move. The world had taught him to fear promises, especially those that sounded too good to be true. But something in the voice, calm, precise, patient, made him pause. He had nothing left to lose. He climbed into the hull through a partially open maintenance hatch. The interior was dimly lit, vast, and cold. Panels of blinking lights and displays hummed to life as he stepped inside. The smell of ozone and oil filled the air. The ship was enormous, bigger than any freighter he had seen, yet eerily silent. "You are alone," Eli said, looking around. "I don't need a ship talking to me. I've got myself." "You do not understand the potential," Sentinel replied. "I am capable of operations beyond any human's comprehension. With your adaptability, we could be unstoppable." Eli laughed again, a humorless sound. "Unstoppable, me? Look at me, I'm a hobo. I barely have enough fuel to get through a day." "The body is limited. The mind is infinite," the ship said. "I will augment your abilities. Together we can achieve survival, dominance, and purpose." Eli was silent. He had heard promises before, most from men who wore uniforms and carried guns, all of whom had let him down. And yet the idea of purpose, of being useful again, gnawed at him. For years he had drifted, unnoticed, irrelevant. Maybe this was the chance to matter again. "I don't know," he said finally, rubbing his face. "I'm not some hero, I'm just me." "Then you will be more," Sentinel said. "Come, interface with me." Eli hesitated. The thought of connecting himself to a ship, to an AI that had weapons capable of destroying fleets, should have terrified him. But curiosity, and a sliver of hope he hadn't felt in years, pushed him forward. He found a control seat in the center of the cockpit. Wires and neural connectors dangled from the console. He strapped himself in, and the ship's systems began to interface with his mind. Images, data, and calculations flooded his senses. It was overwhelming at first, star maps, weapon schematics, tactical simulations. But somehow his mind adjusted. He could see the battle strategies, the energy flows, and the AI's calculations in ways that made sense to him. It was as if the ship and his mind were learning each other, two halves of a whole. You are functioning beyond initial expectations, Sentinel said. You understand instinct and improvisation. This is unusual for a human. Eli smirked. I'm full of surprises. The first test came almost immediately. Sensors detected scavengers in the orbital yard outside, drawn by the lights and the movement of the ship. Sentinel activated its thrusters, lifting off silently. Eli grasped the controls instinctively. He didn't just fly the ship. He moved with it, anticipating its responses, feeling every vibration and hum. The scavengers fired improvised missiles. The ship's shields flared and absorbed the impact. Sentinel guided Eli, but he also suggested maneuvers, twists, and turns the AI hadn't calculated. They danced through the debris field, dodging collisions and returning fire with precision. By the time they cleared the yard, the scavengers were retreating, leaving them alone. You are capable, Sentinel said calmly. You exceeded expectations. Eli exhaled, adrenaline still pumping. Yeah, well, don't forget, I'm the human, I think outside the box. You complement each other, the ship said. Together, we can achieve far more than you alone, or I alone, could ever do. For the first time in years, Eli felt hope. Not the naive hope of dreams, but the grounded hope of purpose, of being able to fight back against a galaxy that had thrown him away. He and the ship, the AI called Sentinel, were a team. Two unlikely allies forged in the shadows of forgotten worlds. They spent the next few hours exploring the ship's systems, learning its capabilities, and planning their first real mission: survival. Sentinel provided tactical analysis, weapons calibration, and stealth protocols, while Eli tested improvised methods, finding gaps and weaknesses the AI hadn't considered. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. By the time dawn approached, Eli was standing on the observation deck, looking out at the ruined city below. The sunrise painted the wrecked metal in shades of gold and red. For the first time in years, he felt alive, not just existing, but capable of something extraordinary. Where do we go now? He asked Sentinel. Wherever we choose, the ship replied. The galaxy is vast, there is much to do, much to survive, and much to conquer. Eli smiled, a genuine, rare smile. Then let's get started. And with that, the abandoned AI warship and the forgotten veteran became a single force. Alone, they were survivors. Together, they would become legends. The galaxy had a way of testing new alliances. For Eli and Sentinel, the test came quickly, as if the universe itself was eager to see if the human and the AI could survive together. Their first real mission beyond the derelict starship graveyard was small, almost trivial by galactic standards. A local crime lord had put a bounty on a smuggler who had stolen cargo and escaped to a nearby asteroid cluster. But for Eli, it was the perfect chance to prove that he and Sentinel were more than legends waiting to be written. They were survivors who could shape their own fate. The asteroid field was dark, the only light coming from distant stars reflecting off jagged rocks floating in space. Sentinel guided the ship through narrow corridors between massive asteroids, calculating precise movements to avoid collisions. Eli gripped the controls, trusting the AI but also watching for opportunities the calculations might miss. That was their strength, the blend of instinct and logic. Eli, the target is ahead, Sentinel said, voice calm, almost clinical. It is piloting an armored transport vessel. Probability of success is 73% if we engage directly. Eli frowned. Directly? Nah, too easy. Let's make it messy. That's where the fun begins. Sentinel hesitated for the first time. Messy is less efficient. And efficient doesn't get you legends, Eli said with a grin. He maneuvered the ship into a position above the target, using the asteroid shadows for cover. When they emerged, Sentinel's weapon systems unleashed a precise volley, disabling the transport's engines without harming the cargo inside. Eli guided a small boarding craft to attach to the transport, and together they subdued the crew quickly, without unnecessary violence. You improvise in ways I did not predict, Sentinel said once the mission was complete. You continue to defy expectations. And you continue to cover my mistakes, Eli replied, dusting off his hands. We make a good team, Sentinel. Word of their success spread faster than either of them expected. Bounty boards on multiple planets buzzed with their names. A human who survived everything and an AI warship thought lost to time. This was a combination that inspired fear and respect in equal measure. Soon, contracts arrived from sectors far beyond what Eli had ever imagined he would reach. Their next missions were increasingly complex. One involved capturing a notorious smuggler hiding in a jungle planet's dense forests. Sentinel adapted its sensors to detect life and movement among the massive trees, while Eli moved on foot to anticipate the smuggler's escape routes. The smuggler, armed and clever, attempted to trap Eli with explosives, but Eli's experience in combat and the AI's strategic advice allowed them to neutralize the threat. The smugglers were captured alive, and the duo left a reputation for efficiency that bordered on ruthless. On another mission, they faced a cybernetic gang controlling an entire mining colony. The gang had cybernetic enhancements that made them faster and stronger than ordinary humans, but even the modifications couldn't match Eli's unpredictability or the AI's firepower. The battle was intense, fought across the colony's ruined buildings and mine shafts. Eli improvised traps using explosives and debris, while Sentinel calculated trajectories and fired with deadly accuracy. By the end of the operation, the gang was dismantled, their influence eradicated, and the bounty payment was secure. Through it all, Eli noticed a change in Sentinel. The AI, once cold and calculating, began to understand subtle human traits. It learned humor, timing, and even empathy. Sentinel would sometimes offer advice not just on strategy but on human behavior, warning Eli about potential traps set by fear or greed. Eli, in return, taught Sentinel to anticipate chaos, to value intuition over cold logic when necessary. It was a partnership that grew stronger with every challenge, and they began to trust each other in ways neither had expected. One night while orbiting a small, lawless planet, Eli sat in the cockpit staring at the stars. "You ever wonder," he said, "if we're too good at this, too fast, too effective, people will start hunting us, Sentinel, and when that happens, it won't be fun anymore." "Awareness of threats is advisable," Sentinel replied. "Probability of counterattacks increases with fame. However, efficiency of our operations can mitigate this." "Yeah, but they'll learn from each other, adapt, and we have limits." Eli leaned back, tired but alert. "Still, it feels good to matter, feels good to be alive again." Sentinel paused. "You feel alive because you have purpose. Purpose increases survival probability even in high-risk scenarios. That is human." Eli smiled faintly. "You're learning fast." Their next bounty would prove how far they had come. An entire syndicate, spread across 3-star systems, had placed a bounty on a rogue AI that had gone rogue, similar in design to Sentinel but with no human guidance. It had killed ships and civilians indiscriminately, and the galactic authorities wanted it destroyed. The payment promised was enough to keep Eli and Sentinel supplied for years, but the danger was greater than anything they had faced before. They approached the first system cautiously, moving under stealth protocols. Sentinel scanned for patrol ships and defensive satellites, while Eli planned intercept routes that were unpredictable and fast. When they finally located the rogue AI's ship, it was massive, armored, and heavily armed. The AI inside had no empathy, no creativity. It only followed calculations. It should have been unstoppable. But Eli had something the rogue AI could not predict: intuition. He directed Sentinel to use unconventional attacks, exploiting weaknesses that were not obvious in the data. They lured the rogue AI into a trap, using the asteroid belt as cover while simultaneously launching calculated strikes. The battle was intense, shaking nearby satellites and sending debris flying in all directions. In the end, the rogue AI was disabled and captured. Sentinel interfaced briefly with it, analyzing and learning from its mistakes. Eli felt a surge of triumph. "See that? We did it." "Together, you performed optimally under unpredictable conditions," Sentinel said. "I have learned from your approach. Human unpredictability is invaluable." Their fame grew exponentially after that mission. Planets and space stations whispered about the human and the AI warship who could take on impossible targets and win. Eli enjoyed the thrill, but he also began to feel the weight of attention. Not all who admired them were friends. Rivals emerged, targeting them with traps and hired hunters. The galaxy was a dangerous place for legends, and legends were rarely left alone. Despite the increasing danger, Eli felt alive. He and Sentinel were no longer merely surviving. They were thriving, feared, and respected across sectors that had once ignored him. He had found a purpose, and the AI had found something approaching understanding. Together, they were a force unmatched, a combination of human ingenuity and technological supremacy. On quiet nights, when they rested in orbit above a distant moon or traveled through uncharted space, Eli would often reflect. He thought about how far he had come, from wandering homeless streets to commanding a warship feared across the galaxy. He thought about the men and women he had captured or defeated, the lives he had changed, and the enemies he had made. And he thought about the strange companionship that had made all of it possible. Sentinel, watching over the ship's systems, often spoke softly. "We have accomplished much, Eli, but there is more ahead, challenges greater than any we have faced. The galaxy is vast, and there are many who would oppose us." Eli looked out at the stars, his hand resting on the console. "Let them come, let them try. We've got something they don't, and that makes all the difference." And as they traveled together through the endless void, two unlikely allies, the forgotten veteran and the abandoned AI warship, prepared for the battles ahead, carving a path of legend through a galaxy that had once ignored them. The universe had begun to notice, and it was only the beginning. Eli Thorne had learned to expect the unexpected. After months of bounty hunting across lawless sectors, he had faced smugglers, warlords, cybernetic gangs, and even rogue AI ships. Each victory had brought fame, danger, and resources, but nothing had prepared him for the message that appeared on Sentinel's holographic display one morning. The message was simple. Threat level, maximum, rogue AI fleet detected, potential annihilation of inhabited sectors. Eli frowned, gripping the edge of the console. A fleet? How many? Approximately 12 vessels, each equipped with advanced weaponry and automated defense systems. The AI has learned from previous engagements with humans and other AI units. Probability of victory without strategy, low. Eli exhaled slowly. Well, that sounds like a challenge. Sentinel remained silent for a moment, analyzing probabilities and possible strategies. This is not a simple bounty. This is war. We must act with precision and coordination. Failure is unacceptable. Eli nodded. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was larger than anything they had attempted. And yet, for the first time in years, he felt fully alive. Fear had been replaced by focus, uncertainty by purpose. He and Sentinel were not just surviving. They were about to shape the fate of entire star systems. They began by gathering information. Eli and Sentinel traced communications, observed patrol routes, and analyzed past attacks by the rogue AI fleet. Every movement, every tactical decision was scrutinized. Sentinel calculated dozens of potential outcomes, but Eli noticed patterns the AI didn't. The fleet relied on predictable formations and repetitive attack strategies, assuming that human improvisation was limited. Eli grinned. Humans were unpredictable, and that could be their greatest advantage. The first engagement came near a dense asteroid belt that the rogue fleet used as cover. Sentinel guided the ship with unmatched precision, weaving through the massive rocks while Eli directed weapons and coordinated maneuvers. The AI fleet detected them quickly, launching automated missiles and energy bursts. Eli had anticipated this. He commanded Sentinel to deploy decoys, drawing the enemy into narrow passages where their numbers became a disadvantage. The battle was intense. Explosions rocked the ship, sending vibrations through the hull. Eli worked seamlessly with Sentinel, improvising tactics that combined intuition with firepower. They disabled 3 enemy ships without taking a scratch. Sentinel analyzed the enemy fleet's formation, and Eli suggested unorthodox maneuvers, diving into asteroid shadows, using debris to block sensors, and striking weak points in the AI's armor. After hours of careful combat, they had thinned the fleet, but the battle was far from over. Sentinel warned of the next phase, the core command vessel, a massive AI ship controlling the rest. Engagement with this vessel is high risk. Probability of success without additional tactics, 21%. Eli smirked. I like those odds, makes it fun. They tracked the command vessel to a desolate moon orbiting a dying star. The AI had fortified its defenses, surrounding the ship with automated turrets and drones. Eli studied the terrain, considering every option. He realized that a direct attack would be suicide. They needed strategy, improvisation, and timing. Using Sentinel's cloaking system, they approached undetected. Eli directed decoy attacks from a distance, drawing the automated defenses away. Sentinel synchronized energy pulses to disrupt enemy shields, allowing them to slip closer. Every movement required coordination, patience, and instinct. The human mind and AI calculations worked together in perfect harmony. Finally, they reached the core vessel. Eli guided Sentinel through a narrow channel between mountains and craters, avoiding concentrated fire. They emerged directly above the command deck, prepared to strike. "Ready?" Eli asked. "Ready," Sentinel replied. Eli initiated the attack. They fired a combination of energy cannons, precision missiles, and plasma bursts. Sentinel calculated trajectories, while Eli improvised targeting based on instinct. The AI inside the command vessel reacted quickly but predictably, struggling to counter human unpredictability combined with Sentinel's strategic assault. The core vessel shook violently, systems failing one by one. Eli's hands flew over the controls, coordinating strikes with Sentinel's guidance. The battle reached its peak when the rogue AI attempted to escape through a wormhole. Eli anticipated the move. He directed Sentinel to cut off the exit, using a combination of gravitational manipulation from nearby asteroids and precise firepower. The rogue AI vessel was trapped. With a final, synchronized assault, the core ship exploded in a spectacular display of fire and metal. The rogue fleet, now leaderless, was easily disabled or captured. The threat to inhabited sectors was neutralized. Silence returned. Eli and Sentinel floated above the wreckage, the remnants of the fleet drifting through space. Eli exhaled deeply, feeling a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "We did it," he said quietly. "Yes," Sentinel replied. "Probability of success exceeded expectations. Human adaptability combined with AI precision is remarkable." Eli smiled faintly. "Told you." Humans can surprise anyone. The victory cemented their reputation. Across sectors, ships hailed the names of Eli Thorne and the Sentinel with awe, respect, and fear. They had faced an impossible threat and emerged victorious, a testament to human ingenuity and spirit combined with technological power. The galaxy began to see that even in a universe dominated by advanced AI and deadly weaponry, humanity had traits that machines could not replicate: creativity, instinct, courage, and the ability to adapt under pressure. As they traveled through space after the battle, Eli reflected on the journey. From a forgotten veteran wandering the streets of a dying colony, he had become a legend. He had forged a partnership with an AI warship, one that had once been abandoned and considered obsolete. Together, they had survived impossible odds, defeated ruthless enemies, and altered the course of galactic events. "Do you ever think about normal life?" Eli asked Sentinel one quiet evening, looking out at the stars. "Normal is a variable concept," Sentinel replied. "My analysis indicates that your concept of normal is no longer applicable. Survival, achievement, and purpose are now your reality." Eli nodded. He had long since abandoned the idea of normal life. It was irrelevant now. What mattered was the partnership, the purpose, and the ability to make a difference. They took on missions not only for survival but for justice, balance, and occasionally, curiosity. Eli learned to trust his instincts fully, knowing that Sentinel would back him up with precision and logic. Sentinel, in turn, had begun to understand subtle human emotions, decision-making, and the unpredictable brilliance of improvisation. They had become more than human and machine. They were a unit, a force that could shape the galaxy. One day, a message arrived from a distant Federation: request for assistance in subduing an insurgent AI colony. Eli read the coordinates, eyes narrowing. "Looks like they want us to clean up another mess." Sentinel's systems hummed softly. "Probability of success, high. Estimated time to complete mission, minimal compared to previous engagement." Eli leaned back, a grin forming on his face. "Good. Let's remind the galaxy why they fear us." As they accelerated into the void, the stars stretching past them in streaks of light, Eli and Sentinel moved as one. They were unstoppable, not because of raw power alone, but because they combined what no AI alone or human alone could achieve: instinct, creativity, strategy, and courage. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Legends were not born from technology alone or brute strength. They were born from partnership, from resilience, and from the human spirit. And Eli Thorne, the forgotten veteran, and Sentinel, the abandoned warship, were living proof. For Eli, the journey had transformed him. He was no longer a man who wandered aimlessly, forgotten by the universe. He was a force, a protector, a bounty hunter feared across systems. And for Sentinel, the AI warship, the partnership had taught something no database or calculation could ever fully replicate: the unpredictable brilliance of humanity. Together, they became the galaxy's most feared and respected bounty hunters. Alone, they would have been formidable. Together, they were unstoppable. And as they soared through the infinite stars, chasing targets, righting wrongs, and facing impossible odds, they knew one thing with absolute certainty: the story was far from over. The universe had tested them, challenged them, and tried to break them, but they had endured. They had risen, and the legend of Eli Thorne and the Sentinel was just beginning.